Hi everyone, it's Michael again. In this video, you will learn Java operators step by step with simple real-world examples. We will cover arithmetic operators, relational operators, logical operators, and we'll also practice coding example, common mistake by beginners. And this is really a perfect video for beginners to learn programming fundamentals. So I'm just going to start by explaining what we mean by operators. Operators, they help us, to perform calculations and comparison in Java. In this video, we'll cover arithmetic, the relational, the logical operators with simple real examples. By the end of this video, you will learn and understand Java and how to make decisions when you perform calculations. So I'm going to talk about what really we mean by when we use the word operators. Operators, they are basically symbols that are used to perform operations on the values and variables. Example are add numbers, compare values, checking conditions. Think of operators as the tools that help your program to do work, basically. So to start with, we're gonna start with the arithmetic operators, which is the additional operators. I will be showing you on the code parts example of what it really means, and I'll dive into the coding part now. So, for instance, if you check our previous video, we spoke about this aspect of the integer, the string, and every other one. So if you actually missed that part when it comes to variables and data type, you can check our previous video. So we'll be making use of our int. Let's say int a is equals to 10, and for instance our int b is equals to 5. So how do we make use of our additional operators when it comes to this aspect? So we want to basically add int a to int b. So how do we do this? We can decide to just print out our value immediately by just saying system.out.print, and we say a plus b. And if we try to run our method at this point, we are going to see that it's going to give our answers to be 15, which is of course 10 plus 5 is equals to 15. So I would like to dive into the other one, which is basically the subtraction operator. So the subtraction operator basically is more or less like just like our mathematics, like we say minus. So if we decide to say this minus this, and we decide to run our program again, or run our method, it's going to, of course, give us the value to be equals to 5, because 10 minus 5 is going to give us 5, of course. So the last one we're going to be talking about is the multiplication operator. So this one also on the same end, if we decide to remove these and add our multiplication sign there, and we decide to run our method again, and this is going to run through and give us 50 as the total value of it. So talking about our division, also similar to the addition, subtraction, and multiplication, if we decide to remove this part and we had the division sign to it, and we decide to run the method, and this is going to, of course, give us 2 as our result. So the other operator that we're going to be looking at is what we call the modulus operators. Basically, this modulus operator is more or less is what we call the remainder. So it gives the remainder after division. And I'm sure a lot of us must have come across this at any point in time. And this, if we try to run this, it's quite, you can tend to want to mix this up to the division sign, but they are not the same. This is what we call the modulus. It gives the remainder, sorry. It gives the remainder after division. So if we run this now, you see it's giving us to be is 0. And I would like also to say that in most cases, our arithmetic operators are used, in other places, which includes the banking apps, when it comes to, shopping carts, when it comes to salary calculations, game scores, and also, some other applications that actually requires us, doing a little bit of arithmetics and maybe division, addition, and subtraction, whatever it is that it entails at that point in time. So, moving from the arithmetic operators, we're going to be talking about what is called the relational operators. Basically, relational operators, they compare values and return true or false, unlike the arithmetic. So, an example of what our relational operator looks like is, I will actually clear off this, is, for instance, you definitely must have seen something like 10 is equals to 10. So what does this mean? Is asking, is basically doing what is called, is comparing the value. Is saying if we're sure that 10 is equals to this 10. Of course, if we run this, value is going to tell us that this is true. So like I said, it always return true or false, unlike the arithmetic. So you can see it returned the true value for us there. And if we decide to, use what is called, this means not equals to, and of course this is definitely going to give us false, because it means this sign here means not equals to. And you can see that it tells us that value, the result is printing out for us here is definitely false. So we're going to look into the other relational operators, which we're going to call, which is called the greater than. So we're going to use, of course, we all know greater than is represented by this arrow pointing forward. And if we say if 10 is greater than 10, definitely this is going to tell us that it's false, because of course 10 is not greater than 10. So, but if you say 10 is greater than is 0, let's just say for instance, and we decide to run this, and it's definitely going to tell us that this is true, because 10 is greater than 0. So we're going to talk about the less than. If you say 10 is less than 0, of course we already know that this is going to give us a false, because 10 is not less than 0. And if we say let's say 20, and we decide to say 10 is less than 20, this is going to give us true. We're going to talk about the greater than or equals to, which is say greater than equals to. If you decide to run this is going to be, of course, false, because 10 is not greater than and it's not equals to, because also we're going to look at less than or less than or equals to. If we decide to say less than or equals to, if we decide to run this part and we run it like this, and of course it's going to tell us is true, because it's less than, even though it is not equals to. So at least one of these is actually true. I'm going to try and talk about where we make use of our relational operators, where they're basically used. They're used when it comes to the aspect of login system, age verification, exam result system, online form, and much more. That requires us to basically, check if one is true, one of the condition is true, or if it's false. The other one we're going to be talking about is what is called the logical operators. They basically, what the logical operators are is the combined conditions. And unlike the relational one, we must have come across a situation of, we'll come across it even though if we're yet to, or some of us which already have basic experience or foundation when it comes to other programming languages, they must have make use of any of these, operators at any point in time when they're writing their program. But if we are yet to do that, we don't have to worry, because these examples are things we'll be making use of at the course of we writing our code going forward. Okay, so I'm going to try and show an example of what logical operators are. So an example of what a logical operator is for instance, we have int age to be equals to 20, and we have a boolean value that says has ID to be equals to true, and we decide to say, we want to check if both we want to check if the condition that we have here. So at this point, we want to check if the age is greater than or equals to 18 and has ID. And if we run this method now, it's going to give us true because age is greater than 18 even though it's not equals to. And also, because this condition is true already, right? This condition is true, and this condition, it means we already declare our boolean value to be true. So it's asking if true and is true. That's what it's saying in layman language. So it means yes, what we are trying to print out here is true. That means the both condition must be true, and that's what the hand value that we have there is for. This one, just checking if this both condition are basically true. So we're going to talk about the OR operators. So I'm going to show an example of what the OR operator is. The OR operator is basically says that at least one of the condition must be true, unlike the hand operator. So let's say this is less than this, and we have this is what our OR operator is. This is what we use to represent our OR operator. So it's saying age 20 is less than 18. Of course, 20 is not less than 18, but has ID is true, which is checking if one of these conditions are basically true. And of course, one of the condition is true. So if we run our program, we're going to find it is going to return true for us as our answer. So that being said, we will like to talk about where we basically make use of an example of where we used the hand condition in the real world. So I'm going to use an example of a login system, should I say login example. So I'm going to try and clear this out, and let's say we have a string with username to be equals to admin, right? And we have the string password, that's a bit a typo, to be equals to, let's say 1 2 3 4, and this is an example of what you're going to write as a code when it comes to an example of a login system, and we're trying to check if the username and password are basically correct, because we want to verify if the person trying to log in is the real owner of their account. So we say username equals admin. So, and password dot equals 123. Then if you try to print this out, try to run our code now, you see it's true. So let's say, for instance, I just had maybe an extra 5 here. I will try to print this condition out. It's going to tell us that it's false because 1, 2, 3, 4 is our password, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I would like to, just like I did in the previous video, I like talking about the common mistake beginners, make most cases at the point, which is, like I said, it's fine to make mistakes. I mean, that's the point of learning, right? So that we can perfect whatever it is. So, but an example of what a lot of new beginners do is they use conditions like A equals to B. So, if A is equals to B is basically not making any sense. So rather, you're just saying A, you're assigning A to be B. So, but that's not what we want to check. What we want to check is we want to be sure that if value A, or let's say the variable in A is equals to B. So rather than doing that, we just add this to it. So it's showing this red because I'm not assigning it to any, I don't have a variable for that particular stuff. But these are one of the example that I basically like to show to let them know that there is difference between the single equals to and the double equals to. Because when you use the single equals to, it means you're assigning the value. But when you're using the double equals to, is basically what is called the compare value. And also, an example of the common mistake that beginners do make is basically asking to use the division value like this. So they will have something like this is 0. This is going to cause an error because if we try to run this now, it's going to give us an error. You see, it's going to give us an error because this is not correct. Another one that I would like to point out is try to talk about few other things that we need to look at. I would like to talk about the ability for us to practice exercise as we go forward in this course, because a lot of situations we just learn this, they are real world situations we will need to implement it. So I will say this, pause the video and I'm going to give you an exercise that you try this yourself so that you can use it to practice on your own at the point we're going on this course, so that we can ensure that we can track our progress as we go forward. So I will give this int x to be 8, int y to be equals to 4. So try as much as possible to use our operators, our comparison, our arithmetics, and try to predict the output before running the code and see whatever it is. You can try to use the plus, the greater than, you can try to use the comparison, and try to see how you can practicalize most of the things we've learned in the course of this video. So now that we basically have an understanding of um, what arithmetics, relation, and logical operator are in Java, and we basically know that these operators are essential for writing real world program, because we're definitely going to use this at our real program. So in the next video, we will also learn we'll learn about if else statement and how Java makes decision. These are the points where we would start making use of our what's it called, arithmetic, relational, and logical operators, so that we can basically have an understanding of the real world scenario that we'll be making use of. So subscribe and continue with this our full Java course, so that we can get the notification on the go and we can keep on track when it comes to getting the latest video that have been released from us. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any comments, if you have any question, just drop it in the comment section. I will be right here to respond to you. Don't forget, subscribe, like, and share this to someone who needs it. Thank you so much. See you in the next video. Bye for now.